This video is sponsored by Lens Rentals. Stick around to see how you can use really expensive cameras without going into poverty. I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly seeing product videos on my YouTube timeline, people trying to tell me about new cameras, new lenses, basically trying to get my eyeballs onto new stuff. And it makes my wallet itchy, it makes my soul hurt. Before we get into this video, I just want to tell you guys, don't feel pressured by me. Don't feel like you have to get this camera to be a better filmmaker, because it's not gonna make you better. I mean, that's just gonna be a self-development thing. I'm sure you guys get bombarded like I do with just new camera videos as soon as something comes out. Let's talk about the Sony A7S III first impressions. The Sony A7S III is super good. Thanks for watching this week's video, guys. We'll see you next time. Make sure to subscribe. Oh, you want to know like details and see some test footage and not just hear me ramble?
Okay.
Listen, this is not a full review. This is just a first impressions. I had the camera for 3 days. Lens Rentals was kind enough to send me a kit of the A7S III and the Sony 20mm 1.8G lens. It's a good lens. And I took that setup to Colorado a few weeks back to hang out with my best boys. And we just like shot a bunch of fun footage together. We actually shot a low light short film as well. I have a whole video on that on my other channel if you want to check that out. I shot in the second from the lowest 4K. So I was doing 420 10-bit. I think it was at 260 megabits per second for the bit rate. I don't have the camera anymore, so I can't specifically remember that. And actually the 420 10-bit the 420 10-bit edits very smooth on my older 2017 computer. And it was really nice. I didn't even have to make proxies, and I usually have to make proxies for my X-T4 footage. Let's get into the deets. First off, I want to talk about the autofocus. And I've never really had a camera that was just straight up amazing at autofocus, except for my 70D 400 years ago. More recently, I've had a GH5, which we all know, not great at autofocus, the Blackmagic Ursa G2, not even an option, I don't think. And now my Fuji X-T4, hashtag FujiJuice by the merch, link in bio. And even the X-T4 isn't amazing at autofocus, in my opinion. The automagical autofocusing technicality abilities of the Sony A7S III are straight up crunk. It's honestly incredible. It's super fast, it's very reliable. I used it the entire time I was in Colorado. Even in low light, the autofocus was keeping up, doing a great job. What I really should do is rent a Canon R5 from Lens Rentals and get my Sony A7S III and do like head-to-head autofocus tests with their native lenses, because I feel like Sony is just as good as Canon now, or better, I don't know. They're both really good options now, which is just great for us, the people who are making stuff. So you have nothing to worry about in terms of the AF from Sony A7S III. I really don't want to come off as a Sony fanboy in this video, and just to be straight up honest, the only Sony camera I've ever even owned is this epic Sony Handycam. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context with my history of Sony, because it's not very deep. This is kind of my first run at Sony cameras. The technical success of the A7S III, in my opinion, is a testament to Sony's patience in making this camera. People like me, other camera YouTubers, and people in this world were barking at Sony for years saying we wanted the Sony A7S III. Towards the end of the A7S II's cycle, the Sony people were saying, we're gonna release the A7S III when it's ready. And I just admire that so much. They could have just churned out like 2 more versions that were just small increments better like iPhones, but instead they waited and created this technical masterpiece that just works. It functions, and it has crazy specs. Like 4K 120, full frame, no crop, full autofocus. So let's talk about low light really quick. I shot an entire short film with my boys in Colorado. We shot the whole thing with ambient light and ISO 12,800. My neighbors are clonking again. If you look at the raw footage on my computer, yeah, there's a little bit of noise, but it's not like these big nasty patterns. It's just really fine little noise patterns that don't distract me at all. On YouTube, you can't even see them because the compression pretty much eliminates it. Thanks, YouTube. And Gerald Undone was kind of one of the first people to discover this, but basically there's a dual native ISO, but Sony did not claim it for the A7S III. So basically, as you climb up in ISO, it's gonna get noisier, obviously. Around 10,000, it's a little dirty, a little nasty. And then once you click over to 12,800, It's beautiful and clean. It was so good that I had to stop down on my lens when we were shooting with available light indoors, because if I would have left the ISO at 12,800 and the lens at 1.8, everything would have been blown out. So instead of lowering my ISO and actually making it noisier, I left it at 12,800 and just stopped down on my lens to get accurate exposure. All right, let's talk about something important, the ergonomics. This young Sony has a chonky grip because they have the bigger, beefier battery now in the A7S III, and it's glorious. You get great battery life, and that big, beefy grip really just helps you hold on to the camera. Also, you get a ton of button customization on the A7S III. I spent my first couple hours with the camera just mapping out where I wanted my custom buttons to be to make my shooting experience faster. The flip screen is a welcome addition. I know some people don't like it, but I personally love it, so I can do some filming of myself, self-content creation, loneliness with a camera. But dude, the EVF is the unsung hero of this camera. It is unbelievably sharp. It looks so good. I just had so much fun shooting outdoors, getting shots of my friends and landscapes using the EVF because it just felt rich. I don't know how to describe it. And I haven't tested like all the really nice photo mirrorless cameras. I'm sure they have some great EVFs too, but this was the best one I've ever used. S-Log3 is finally usable because of all these awesome new codec additions where we can get higher bit rates. Obviously the 10-bit color in up to 422 internal is really nice. And now you can also do ProRes RAW over HDMI to an Atomos Ninja 5. That's what I'm recording on right now. S-Log3 is just my favorite because I like to fully color grade and customize and just practice color grading. I want to get better at that. I want my colors to look like this. But until I get to that level, S-Log3 is perfect for me because it gives me that flexibility with the 10-bit, but it still doesn't break my older computer. I'm cool with it. Sony, I'm cool with it, okay? I'm not gonna complain. And having 120 frames per second as an option is crazy, especially because it looks just as good as shooting in 24. And I promise the camera has weaknesses, and we're gonna get into that a little bit, but there's so much good about it that you know? Okay, quick, we'll touch on photography because I know that people don't think this is a capable photo camera because it's a 12 megapixel sensor. And basically that's just so that each photo site on the sensor can be bigger, absorb more light, which results in cleaner images for video. The photos that I took, I think look really nice. I'm not a professional photographer or photo editor by any means, but I think they look Gucci, you know? Instagram is just gonna destroy your photos anyway, so you're not gonna be able to tell what freaking megapixel count. I don't think I would buy this camera as a photo first camera. It's absolutely created for video shooting first, but it's nice that you can also shoot really nice looking photos and throw them on Instagram and they look fine. IBIS, here it is folks, we're talking about IBIS. I've talked a lot about the X-T4's IBIS because I came from the GH5, which is my favorite IBIS system. I know Olympus is awesome, but RIP, it's out of the picture at this point. So the GH5 to me was kind of like the standard, the golden standard. The X-T4 fell short. It can kind of be usable if you're just standing, which is great, but the A7S III somehow pretty much as good as the GH5. I don't know how they did it. They made full frame IBIS really great. It's super good, especially when you're using active. That's what I used on the whole trip. There's a slight crop, I think it's 1.1, is that right? So yeah, you get a slight crop, but you also get smooth, creamy footage, which is great. So it's an awesome option for run and gun shooters if you're doing doc style stuff, vlog style. All right, for this finale, we're gonna talk about what I love about the camera and what it's missing. 10-bit 4K with a ton of options for codecs and bit depth. It's very nice for a variety of computers. It's just great for us in the editing room. The IBIS is amazing. The autofocus is ridiculously fast and reliable. And the color is surprisingly good. I really like it. I like how the skin tones are actually more orange now. They look a little bit more realistic as opposed to the A7S II. Now, what is the camera missing? First and foremost for me, it's missing DCI 4K. I really like having that 40/96 wide aspect ratio. Second thing is I wish the camera had a true internal audio limiter. I have this shot of a crowd of people saying surprise. And it just like destroyed the audio, even though I had the microphone turned way down because I compress everything later to get the volume back up. I don't know. The GH5 had a true limiter, so I know it's possible. Last two things I wish it had was rocket launchers and cheap lenses. Let's talk about lens rentals.
Lens rentals, a place where you can rent camera gear and not spend money that you don't have for nice, cool stuff. Let's say you want to try the Sony A7S III, but you don't have $3,500 just laying around. I understand that. You can go on lens rentals, put this bad boy in your cart, rent it for like 2 days or 2 months, it's up to you, and then they ship it to your doorstep on the day that you desire. They also give you a return label and all that shipping stuff. So when you're done with the gear, you pack it back up nice and neat. Don't you dare steal that lens cap. Don't give it back to them. Then you drop the gear back off at a shipping place and they send it back to lens rentals hassle-free. So if you want to stay happy so you can dance around on tables and not be sad because you spent all your money on an A7S III, just rent the ding-dang camera, and then if you end up liking it a lot, don't worry, Lens Rentals has a rent-to-own program, you silly goofball. What I'm saying is I could look at this all day. I could stare at it, gloat over it, practically worship it. But sometimes you need to just try something out before you buy it.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And once again, please don't feel pressured to buy anything except the merch. Just kidding. You don't have to buy anything. I know times are tough right now and the world is going crazy, but I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you for supporting this video and this channel and allowing me to do what I like to do. It means a lot. So I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.